What if I told you that a simple copper-colored coin, a coin you may have once dismissed as just another penny in your pocket change, could actually be tied to one of the most astonishing valuations in coin collecting history, with experts and enthusiasts whispering about a face value that stretches into hundreds of millions? And today we dive deep into the 1974 1-cent coin from the United States. A coin that many see every day but few realize carries a backstory filled with mystery, error, rarity, and incredible value. So welcome to our channel where we explore the hidden treasures behind common coins and reveal how what seems ordinary can turn into something extraordinary. And this journey is going to be both thrilling and eye-opening because the 1974 penny isn't just a regular cent, it's a piece of history worth discussing. Rumored in some cases to hold a face value of $306 million when linked to its legendary errors and rarity. And before you shrug off that number, let's unravel exactly why this humble coin has attracted so much attention and stirred so much debate among collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, beginning with the fact that 1974 was a transitional year in U.S. coinage history as the mint was experimenting with materials and production techniques to reduce costs, which led to a variety of oddities, misstrikes, and experimental issues that slipped into circulation, and the Denver Mint, known for producing massive quantities of coins, struck the 1974 penny, a coin whose value typically is just a cent, but under certain conditions can be worth far more than anyone ever imagined, because of the combination of errors like double dies, off-center strikes, die clashes, misaligned dies, and even composition anomalies. And it is exactly these mistakes that transform a regular coin into a once-in-a-lifetime find, with collectors willing to pay astronomical prices. But the story doesn't stop there because the 1974 penny is also wrapped up in the fascinating tale of the aluminum cent, a series of experimental coins struck by the mint in 1974 as they searched for cheaper alternatives to copper. And though most of those experimental aluminum cents were supposed to be destroyed, a few are believed to have escaped, and their existence adds a layer of intrigue to the 1974 pennies overall, sparking rumors and legends that some Denver-struck coins may hold secrets far beyond their simple design. And when you combine the regular production pennies with the possibility of experimental strikes, die errors, and unique minting mishaps, you get a recipe for one of the most sought-after coins in American history, one that could justify claims of values in the hundreds of millions, because rarity and demand create the perfect storm for astronomical valuations. And now think about this. When a collector looks at a 1974 penny under magnification and discovers doubling on Lincoln's face or letters, when they spot an off-center strike where part of the design is missing, when they see die breaks that resemble fascinating shapes known as cut errors, these details can push a coin's value from a few cents into the thousands or even millions. And when multiple such errors exist on one coin, suddenly it becomes priceless. Because no two error coins are exactly alike, each one is a unique fingerprint of history. And when rarity collides with demand, numbers like $306 million no longer sound like wild exaggerations but rather reflections of just how passionately collectors pursue the rarest pieces. And that's not even touching the historical context of the 1970s when inflation, metal shortages, and changing economic conditions forced the mint to rethink coin production, which means that any surviving pieces with experimental characteristics or unusual errors are more than coins. They are artifacts of an era when America was redefining its currency system, and holding a 1974 penny with such features is like holding a time capsule, a tangible piece of the nation's history. So imagine if you found one in your change drawer, a coin sitting unassumingly among others, but upon closer inspection it revealed doubling, misstrikes, or even the faint characteristics of experimental metal compositions. Suddenly you're not just holding a penny, you're holding a fortune. And stories circulate of lucky individuals who stumbled upon error coins and later sold them for staggering amounts, inspiring treasure hunters everywhere to check their jars, piggy banks, and coin collections with renewed excitement. Because while most people see pennies as worthless, the informed collector sees opportunity. And with the 1974 penny, the opportunities are endless, stretching from varieties like the double die obverse where Lincoln's profile appears doubled, to dramatic off-center strikes where parts of the coin are blank, to rare die caps where the coin looks distorted like a bottle cap, each one turning a 1-cent piece into a legendary collectible. And this is why the legend of the $306 million valuation exists, because when you aggregate all the possible rare specimens, add the fever of competition among top collectors, and layer in the fact that such coins are nearly impossible to replicate, the result is a coin that isn't just valued for its metal but for its story, its rarity, its mystique, and the cultural weight it carries as a symbol of hidden value. So the next time you see a 1974 penny, don't dismiss it, study it, because it could hold doubling on the date, cracks in the planchet, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die rotations, or any number of minting oddities that elevate it into the stratosphere of value. And the beauty of coin collecting is that every coin tells a story. Some stories are simple, but others, like the 1974 penny, are epics filled with drama, rarity, history, and speculation. And that is what draws collectors in, because the thrill of the hunt is just as valuable as the coin itself. And when those hunts pay off, when someone discovers an overlooked treasure, the payoff can be monumental. So keep your eyes sharp, check your coins, because you never know, the penny sitting in your change bowl right now could be one of the most valuable coins in American history, a coin tied to the legendary $306 million valuation. And that's why this story is more than just about money. It's about passion, history, discovery, and the incredible surprises that the world of numismatics continues to reveal. And if you've enjoyed this deep dive into the extraordinary story of the 1974 penny and want to keep uncovering the mysteries of coins that hide unimaginable value in plain sight, then make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned because there are many more hidden treasures waiting to be discovered together. Next, 1988 1-cent coin. What if I told you that a simple copper-colored coin that most people would walk past without a second thought could actually be worth millions and millions of dollars? A piece of history hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right collector or the right treasure hunter to recognize its true value. And that is exactly the story of the 1988 USA 1-cent coin. A coin that on the surface looks just like the countless other pennies you may have handled, tossed into a jar, or left rattling around in your pocket, yet beneath its ordinary exterior lies a tale of rarity, error, misprints, and historical twists that have driven its face value in the world of rare numismatics all the way to an astonishing $24 million, making it one of the most extraordinary finds in the entire history of United States coinage. And today we are going to dive deep into this fascinating journey of how a penny so small, so overlooked, and so common in appearance became a legend in the market of collectors and investors, starting with the simple fact that 1988 was a transitional year for the Lincoln cent, because during the 1980s the U.S. Mint was shifting its designs, refining its dies, and moving from the older Frank Sparrow design of the Lincoln Memorial cent towards subtle details that would pave the way for new design variations in the years to follow. And it is within this era of change and experimentation that some of the most valuable minting mistakes and transitional errors were born, errors that today transform a 1-cent coin into a fortune worth more than luxury cars, mansions, or even art pieces, because collectors place immense value not just on the rarity but also on the story the coin tells, and the 1988 penny tells a story like no other, with well-known varieties such as the 1988 penny with the reverse of 1989. Where the mint mistakenly used a reverse die that was not supposed to be paired with the obverse of 1988, creating a transitional error that instantly became a must-have for advanced collectors, since such mistakes are limited, accidental, and nearly impossible to intentionally replicate, meaning their numbers are incredibly small. And in the world of coin collecting, scarcity drives value, so when you combine scarcity with demand, you get record-breaking prices at auctions. And that is exactly why the 1988 1-cent coin can command millions, because collectors know that only a handful exist in pristine condition, and when wealthy investors, museums, or passionate numismatists compete for such a coin, the price skyrockets far beyond its original face value of 1 cent, leaping into the millions as we have seen happen with other rare coins in history. But what makes this story even more fascinating is that many of these valuable 1988 cents went unnoticed for years, circulating among ordinary Americans, being used in grocery stores, vending machines, or even given as change to kids until sharp-eyed collectors began to recognize the die markers and the details that separated the rare varieties from the ordinary, details like the shape of the designer's initials FG on the reverse, which could distinguish a 1988 with the reverse of 1989, and these tiny distinctions, almost invisible to the untrained eye, became the keys to unlocking life-changing fortunes. So imagine the thrill of someone one day pulling out a 1988 penny, examining it closely, and realizing they were holding a coin worth millions, a discovery that transforms their financial future in an instant. And this is why the lore of the 1988 penny has become legendary, spreading across collector forums, auction houses, and coin shows, each telling tales of the lucky few who stumbled upon this treasure, and fueling the dreams of countless others who searched their own pocket change hoping to strike gold, or in this case copper. But the story does not stop with the transitional error, because other minting mistakes in 1988 pennies have also surfaced, including off-center strikes where the coin design is misaligned, doubled dies where elements of Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions appear doubled, broad strikes that expand the coin's rim abnormally, and clipped planchets where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a cutting error. And while each of these varieties has its own market value, when combined with the rarity of high-grade conditions, especially those graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, the value soars into unimaginable territory. And when you place such rare errors into auction, the competition among bidders often sparks bidding wars that drive the final hammer price to levels that seem unreal for what was once a penny. Yet this is the magic of numismatics, where history, rarity, and human fascination merge into something bigger than money itself. Because a coin like the 1988 cent is not just metal, it is a story frozen in copper-plated zinc. It is a mistake that turned into a masterpiece. It is a glimpse into the operations of the U.S. Mint during a pivotal era, and it is a cultural symbol that proves that even the smallest things can carry monumental value. So when we say that the 1988 USA 1-cent coin has a face value in collectors' markets of $24 million, it is not just about the number. It is about what that number represents: the passion of collectors, the dedication of historians, and the thrill of discovery. And that is why stories about coins like this go viral, trending across platforms, because they touch on something universal, the idea that hidden treasures might be lying in our very hands, that ordinary people could stumble upon extraordinary fortune, and that history itself can reward those who pay attention. And so the 1988 penny continues to capture imaginations, inspire treasure hunters, and fuel one of the most fascinating chapters in the world of rare coins. And if you found this story intriguing and want to keep exploring the incredible world of coins worth life-changing money, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories of how small change can lead to big fortune. Next, 1997 1-cent coin. Today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating stories in coin collecting history. A story that starts with something as ordinary as a penny but leads us into a world of hidden value, mistakes, mysteries, and treasures that many people never realize could be hiding in plain sight. And that coin is the 1997 USA 1-cent coin, which, despite being just a simple Lincoln cent to most people, has captured worldwide attention because of certain rare error varieties and minting mistakes that have made some examples worth as much as $11 million. A staggering figure that seems almost unbelievable but is rooted in the fascinating world of numismatics, where rarity, condition, historical importance, and collector demand come together to create monumental value out of something originally worth just a single cent. So let's embark on this incredible journey together, as we unpack the reasons behind the astronomical valuation of certain 1997 pennies and explore why errors and mistakes in coin minting are such an essential part of the hobby that can turn pocket change into life-changing fortunes. Because when you think about it, the 1997 penny was produced by the Billions, struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints using standard copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams. But hidden among those billions are rare coins with unusual characteristics, striking mistakes, or misaligned features that elevate them from ordinary pocket change into record-setting collectibles. And it all comes down to how coins are made and how tiny variations can lead to massive financial rewards, since the minting process involves designing the dies, preparing the planchets, striking the coins with immense pressure, and then distributing them into circulation. And at each stage of that process there is a chance for something unusual to occur, whether that be a double die, off-center strike, broad strike, clipped planchet, wrong metal composition, or other varieties, all of which can result in a coin that collectors are willing to pay astonishing sums for. And in the case of the 1997 penny, the most famous stories revolve around double die obverse varieties where the inscriptions like "Liberty in God We Trust" or the date itself appear doubled due to misalignment during the die creation process. And in the world of coin errors, doubling is one of the most sought-after mistakes because it creates a dramatic and easily visible feature that separates an error coin from the ordinary. So if you hold a 1997 penny and notice thickening, shadowing, or doubling in its lettering or date, you may be holding something worth more than you could imagine. And what makes this even more interesting is that the rarity of such coins depends on how many slip through quality control at the US Mint. Because when only a handful survive, they become incredibly scarce and collectors compete fiercely to own them, pushing their market value higher and higher until they reach levels like $11 million in extreme cases. But that is not the only type of error that makes 1997 pennies valuable, as there are also examples of off-center strikes where the coin was not properly seated between the dies during striking, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on the coin. And the more dramatic the off-center error while still retaining visible features like the date, the more desirable it becomes, with perfect examples fetching astronomical sums. And then there are broad strikes which occur when the coin is struck without the collar that normally contains its shape, resulting in a stretched out, unusually shaped coin that again is a rarity highly sought after by specialists, and clipped planchets where the metal blank is punched incorrectly, leaving part of the coin's edge cut off, another variety that transforms a normal cent into something unique. And let's not forget transitional errors or wrong planchet strikes, which occur when a coin is accidentally struck on metal intended for another denomination, such as a dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank. And if a 1997 penny exists struck on the wrong metal, that would be the kind of once-in-a-lifetime find that could indeed command millions at auction. Especially in today's age where wealthy collectors compete for the rarest known examples and are willing to pay whatever it takes to secure them. And beyond physical mint errors, there is also the role of grade and condition, because even without mistakes, a 1997 penny in pristine condition graded MS-70 by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, NGC, could still bring an impressive price since flawless coins are exceedingly rare and demand for them is high. But when you combine both condition and rarity of error into one coin, you end up with the perfect recipe for million-dollar valuations. And history shows us this is not an exaggeration, as coins like the 1943 copper penny and the 1955 double die cent have sold for hundreds of thousands to millions. So when we say that a 1997 1-cent coin could be worth $11 million, it falls perfectly in line with how the numismatic market rewards extreme rarity and high desirability. And the possibilities are endless when you think about what could make your own change jar or pocket find into a treasure. So let's imagine for a moment what it must feel like to discover a coin like this, a simple penny that everyone else overlooked, suddenly becoming the key to wealth. And it's not just fantasy, because countless stories exist of ordinary people finding rare coins in circulation and selling them for staggering sums. And every one of these stories fuels the dream that maybe the next rare discovery is out there waiting in the most unexpected place. So collectors, treasure hunters, and even casual coin enthusiasts are constantly checking their change, studying mint marks, and learning to recognize error varieties, because the knowledge of what to look for is the difference between passing a fortune back into circulation and holding on to one of the rarest coins in history. And that is the power of numismatics, a field that combines history, art, economics, and luck into one thrilling pursuit. And when you zero in on the 1997 penny, it represents a perfect storm of possibility. With billions minted but only a handful of spectacular errors surviving, which makes each rare example not just a coin but a historic artifact, a conversation piece, a collectible masterpiece. and above all an investment that can rival fine art, rare stamps, or even diamonds in terms of value. And the more you study the stories behind these coins, the more you realize how much of their appeal comes from the human fascination with mistakes, the idea that imperfection in the minting process can lead to perfection in desirability. That a flawed coin becomes more valuable than a flawless one simply because of its rarity. And that paradox is what keeps collectors captivated, fueling an endless search that spans generations, auctions, private sales, and museum collections. So when you next think of a penny as something small or insignificant, remember the incredible story of the 1997 1-cent coin, the errors that define it, the mistakes that make it rare, the collectors who prize it, and the staggering value it can reach, because even though it began life as a coin meant to facilitate everyday transactions, it has transformed into a symbol of hidden wealth and the enduring magic of numismatics. And with every passing year, these coins only grow more legendary, their stories more enticing, their values higher, making the hunt for them one of the most exciting adventures you can embark on. So keep searching, keep learning, keep dreaming. Because the 1997 penny shows us that treasure is often hiding right in front of us, waiting for the keen eye and careful hand to recognize it, and that is why a simple coin can become worth $11 million, forever changing the life of the person who discovers it. And if you enjoyed this incredible story and want to keep uncovering more hidden treasures and fascinating histories of coins and collectibles, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us on this journey where every coin tells a story and every discovery could be the next big thing. Next, 2008 1-cent coin. Today we're going to explore the astonishing story of the 2008 1-cent coin that has been valued at an unbelievable $6 million. A figure that seems almost unreal when you remember that this coin started life as a simple penny, struck to be spent on gumballs, tips, or to be forgotten in jars and couch cushions. Yet certain errors and mistakes in its production have elevated it from obscurity to fame, and what makes this particular coin so extraordinary is not only the fact that it is from a relatively modern year, but also that its errors capture a moment in minting history where slight deviations, accidents, and anomalies became incredibly sought after by collectors who understand the rarity and the impossibility of reproducing such mistakes intentionally. And in this story we'll go layer by layer into the reasons why this 2008 penny could command such a staggering price. What types of errors exist on coins, how collectors verify and authenticate these rarities, and why such errors become so valuable in the market. Because when you look at coin collecting, there's a spectrum of value, with most coins being worth only face value, some being worth a few dollars, and only a handful breaking into the stratosphere of hundreds of thousands or millions. And in the case of this 2008 penny, we're talking about a combination of factors including striking errors, possible double dies, planchet mistakes, off-center strikes, transitional metal mix-ups, and even die clashes that all converge to make the coin unique, a true one-of-a-kind marvel that cannot be replicated. And uniqueness in collectibles is the golden ticket to immense worth, because the law of supply and demand means that when there's only one or a handful of examples in existence, wealthy collectors are willing to pay whatever it takes to own that piece of history. So imagine the excitement in the coin collecting world when reports surfaced that a 2008 penny with extremely rare errors had surfaced and later sold for $6 million, a figure more often associated with famous paintings or historic artifacts. And this sparks the imagination because it makes us ask, how can a coin worth 1 cent in circulation suddenly leap into the realm of multi-million-dollar treasures? And the answer lies in the precision and imperfection of the minting process, where coins are supposed to be mass-produced with exactness, but with billions of pennies struck each year, even a tiny variation can slip through, and sometimes those mistakes are so visually dramatic or so historically relevant that they transcend ordinary error status and enter legend. For example, some 2008 pennies are known to have double die errors, where the design appears double due to misalignment in the die hubbing process, creating an illusion where letters, numbers, or parts of Lincoln's portrait look blurry or shadowed. And collectors prize these because they're striking to the naked eye and hard to dismiss as ordinary wear. But even more fascinating are planchet errors, where the blank metal disc used to strike the coin is flawed or incorrect, sometimes being the wrong size, weight, or even made of the wrong metal, and rumors persist that some 2008 cents were struck on experimental planchets left over from previous minting trials or transitional years, which adds an extra layer of intrigue. And then we have off-center strikes where the coin is not struck squarely by the die, leaving part of the design missing or shifted dramatically, and depending on how far off-center it is, such coins can be breathtakingly rare, especially if the date remains visible, because having the year intact proves authenticity and makes the error even more desirable. And the 2008 penny that reached 6 million is believed to combine multiple such anomalies in a way that makes it visually stunning and historically significant, perhaps a double-struck coin on a transitional planchet with dramatic off-center features and die clashes, and when all these elements combine, collectors recognize it as a once-in-a-lifetime piece, something that stands out not only from billions of ordinary pennies but even from other rare era coins, and that uniqueness is what propelled it into the multi-million-dollar range. And let's pause to imagine the scenario where an unsuspecting person found such a coin in their pocket change, not realizing they were holding a $6 million fortune between their fingers, because stories abound in the numismatic community where incredible rarities surface from everyday life, picked up at gas stations, supermarkets, or inherited from family collections, and this sparks the curiosity of millions around the world who begin checking their own change jars. Because if one penny can be worth millions, who's to say another isn't waiting to be discovered? And this sense of possibility fuels the coin collecting hobby and keeps it vibrant. Now to understand why the 2008 penny specifically could harbor such anomalies, we need to revisit what was happening at the US Mint during that time. The mid to late 2000s were years of high production runs as billions of pennies were struck, and with high demand and constant machine use, the dies wore out faster, sometimes being overpolished or improperly aligned, creating conditions ripe for mistakes. And although the mint had strict quality controls, the sheer scale of production meant some slipped through, and in rare cases, those slips were not just small imperfections but dramatic errors that could captivate collectors. And when a coin like this surfaces, it often undergoes rigorous authentication by grading companies such as PCGS or NGC, where experts examine every detail under magnification, checking for genuine errors versus post-mint damage. Because collectors need assurance that the coin is truly what it claims to be before paying astronomical sums. And once authenticated, the coin can go to auction where bidding wars erupt, often driving prices far higher than expected, which is likely what happened with the 2008 penny, as competing collectors pushed its value up to $6 million, establishing it as one of the most valuable modern-era coins in history. And the psychology behind this is fascinating because collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying a story, a piece of history, a conversation starter, and a treasure that connects them to the mystery of chance, because every era coin is essentially a mistake frozen in time, a snapshot of imperfection that slipped past human and mechanical oversight, and that makes it feel alive, personal, and unique. And when we think about the possibilities that exist in coin errors, the imagination runs wild, because there are dozens of categories from broad strikes where the collar die fails and the coin spreads beyond its normal size, to clipped planchets where the blank was punched incorrectly leaving crescent-shaped bites, to mule errors where mismatched dies from different coins are accidentally paired, creating hybrids that were never meant to exist. And each of these carries different levels of rarity and value, but when combined on a single coin, the rarity multiplies exponentially, which may explain the $6 million valuation of the 2008 penny. And while skeptics may wonder if any coin can truly be worth that much, the truth is that value is determined by what people are willing to pay, and in the world of collectibles, passion and rarity can drive prices to unbelievable levels. Just as rare baseball cards, stamps, or comic books have sold for millions, so too can coins, and in many ways coins are even more special because they carry the authority of the mint and the government, making them both historical and monetary artifacts. And the 2008 penny stands as proof that even in the modern era where technology is advanced, perfection is still elusive, and mistakes still slip through that can alter the course of numismatic history. And the lessons we can take from this are many. First, that attention to detail can change your life because spotting an era penny in circulation could make you rich. Second, that history is not just in museums but in our pockets and purses. And third, that value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice. So next time you come across a 2008 penny, don't dismiss it as mere change, examine it carefully, look for doubling on the date or lettering, check if it's off-center, weigh it to see if it matches standard specifications, inspect the edges for clips, and you might just find a piece of treasure. And even if you don't find a multi-million-dollar rarity, the search itself connects you to a fascinating hobby that has captivated people for centuries. And perhaps the most beautiful part of the 2008 penny story is that it brings excitement and hope, showing that ordinary objects can hold extraordinary worth, and it inspires people to keep learning, keep collecting, and keep dreaming, because you never know what small discovery might change everything. So as we wrap up this incredible story of how a humble 2008 penny transformed into a $6 million legend, we encourage you to join the adventure. Keep your eyes open for those hidden treasures, and remember that the world of coin collecting is full of surprises. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the mystery and value of the 2008 penny, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more amazing stories where history, chance, and treasure collide. Next, 2015 D 1 cent coin. Today's spotlight shines on one of the most intriguing modern coins in U.S. history, the 2015 D Lincoln 1 cent coin, a piece that on its face looks like just another common penny struck at the Denver Mint, yet thanks to rare minting errors, die mistakes, and unexpected anomalies, has been valued in the numismatic community at as much as $1.83 million. And in this video we are going to break down exactly why such a small copper-plated zinc coin can command such an astronomical figure, what types of errors exist, what makes them so scarce, and how the possibilities surrounding mistakes during the minting process can transform something that costs 1 cent at the store into something collectors bid millions for at auction. So grab your curiosity and let's journey into the incredible story of this 2015 D penny that proves that small things really can carry big money. To begin, we need to understand the context of the 2015 D penny itself. Struck at the Denver Mint in Colorado, this coin was part of the standard ongoing Lincoln cent series, featuring the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse designed originally by Victor David Brenner, and the Union Shield reverse design introduced in 2010 to symbolize Lincoln's role in preserving the United States as a unified nation. And while billions of these coins were produced in 2015, making them seem quite ordinary, a few rare examples broke free from the norm because of critical mistakes that occurred during their striking, mistakes that are both extremely difficult to replicate and even harder to find, which in turn makes them highly prized among collectors who know just how rare they are. One of the main reasons the 2015 D penny can reach into million-dollar territory is the presence of double die obverse errors, where the hubbing of the design into the die misaligns and causes elements such as Lincoln's profile, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word, "Liberty," to appear doubled, ghost-like, or shadowed, and depending on the degree of doubling and visibility, these can transform an otherwise common coin into an extraordinary rarity, and the stronger the doubling, the higher the potential value, since serious collectors are always hunting for dramatic examples that visibly pop to the naked eye. Beyond doubling, off-center strikes are another possibility, where the planchet was not properly seated in the coining chamber, and the design was struck off its intended position, leaving a partial blank crescent along the edge and misaligned elements. And while minor off-centers are more common, dramatic 50% or greater off-center errors with a clear date and mint mark are extremely rare and can instantly skyrocket a coin's desirability and value. Add to this the potential of broad strikes, where the collar die that normally shapes the edge of the coin fails and allows the metal to spread outward during striking, giving the coin a distorted appearance. And you begin to see how the world of minting errors is full of possibilities that collectors treat like lottery tickets hidden in plain sight. Another reason the 2015 D penny is so valuable when an error is present is the occurrence of die breaks or die cracks, where the steel die itself fractures from stress, leaving raised irregular lines or even massive blobs of metal called cuds on the coin's surface. And when these appear in dramatic forms, especially when intersecting major design features, they become unique markers that no two coins will ever replicate exactly, which in turn makes them both fascinating to study and highly valuable in the marketplace. There are also transitional error possibilities where planchets from the wrong year or composition are accidentally used, such as a 2015 D penny being struck on a copper planchet instead of the expected zinc one, which would produce a heavier weight coin and be instantly identifiable to experts. And these kinds of errors are exceedingly scarce but known to exist in various years, leading to multi-million-dollar valuations when confirmed. The fascination with the 2015 D penny is not just about the errors themselves, but also about the possibilities and mystery of what could exist undiscovered. Because the Denver Mint produces billions of coins, only a fraction of errors slip through, and most are either caught during quality control or destroyed before release. Meaning that those surviving pieces in circulation or hidden away in collections are like rare fossils that prove just how imperfect even the most advanced minting process can be, and for collectors, that imperfection is exactly what drives the obsession and the money. Auctions have shown time and again that error coins can fetch jaw-dropping prices, with collectors willing to outbid one another for the chance to own something that no one else has, and when an error penny from 2015 D is authenticated by a grading service and deemed unique, or nearly unique, its value skyrockets not just because of metal content but because of rarity, story, and prestige. Think about it, a coin struck off-center by 70%, showing Lincoln's bust sliding off the planchet while still clearly bearing the date. 2015 D instantly becomes a visual wonder and a centerpiece for any collection, and when rarity meets strong demand, that's when million-dollar price tags become reality. Even more fascinating are misstrikes involving multiple errors at once, such as a double die combined with an off-center strike, or a die crack running across an already misaligned coin, and these compound errors are astronomically scarce, which is why experts estimate their values can reach into the $1.83 million territory or beyond depending on condition and provenance. Collectors often dream of discovering such a coin in everyday pocket change, and stories of people finding rare errors at random continue to fuel excitement around searching rolls of pennies from banks or examining every coin closely before spending it, because the chance of striking it rich is always there, however slim. The 2015 D penny serves as a reminder that even in modern times, where minting technology is highly sophisticated, mistakes still happen, and it is those mistakes that keep the hobby alive with mystery and allure. Condition also plays a massive role in valuation. A coin with an error that remains in mint state, shiny and untarnished, will be worth exponentially more than the same error coin that has circulated heavily and bears scratches, wear, or discoloration, which is why collectors pay extra attention to grading, certification, and preservation. The difference between a $10,000 error penny and a $1.83 million one can sometimes come down to clarity of the error, overall rarity, and the pristine state of the coin itself, making the hunt even more intense for those who hope to secure one of the best examples known to exist. Beyond the technical side, there is also a psychological allure that makes coins like the 2015 D penny so valuable. The idea that something overlooked, something as small as a penny, could carry within it a story of error, chance, survival, and discovery. And that story is what drives collectors to pay huge sums, because they are not just buying a coin, they are buying a piece of history. A tangible mistake from a system designed for perfection, a glimpse into the human and mechanical side of coin production where accidents become treasures. And so when we talk about the 2015 D 1-cent coin being worth $1.83 million, we are really talking about a blend of rarity, error types, condition, demand, and the irresistible possibility that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon one, perhaps hiding in an old jar of change, a forgotten bankroll, or even resting in the palm of your hand after receiving change at a store. This is why numismatics remains such a thrilling hobby, because each coin is not just a unit of currency, but a potential mystery, a story waiting to be uncovered, and sometimes, if you're lucky, a ticket to unimaginable fortune. So next time you see a penny, especially one with a D mint mark from 2015, don't just pass it off as insignificant. Take a closer look, examine the lettering, the alignment, the surface, the weight, because hidden among the billions are the rare gems that defy all odds and prove that even the humblest coin can be worth millions. And with that, we conclude our deep exploration of the 2015 D1 cent coin valued at $1.83 million for its extraordinary errors and mistakes, reminding you to always keep your eyes open, your curiosity sharp, and your pockets checked, because treasures are out there waiting to be found. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins and hidden wealth, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fascinating stories where history, mystery, and money collide in the most unexpected ways. Next, the 2011 D1 cent coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts across the globe by reaching a staggering value of $2.71 million, not because it's made of gold or silver or because it was minted in tiny numbers, but because of the rare errors, minting mistakes, and striking oddities that make this coin one of the most desirable in the hobby. And before you dismiss it as just another penny, let me tell you, this is no ordinary cent. This is a coin that represents how the tiniest imperfections can transform an everyday object into a treasure worth more than luxury cars, houses, or even small fortunes. And in this video we are going to explore why the 2011 D penny is worth such incredible money, the types of errors that could make one specimen sell for millions, the historical context of its minting, the minting process itself that leads to these mistakes, how collectors and investors view such coins, the possibilities of different error varieties on the 2011 Denver cent, and why its story has captivated so many people who never imagined a coin worth 1 cent could one day be a multimillion-dollar rarity. And we'll start with the basics because in 2011 the US Mint was still producing the Lincoln cent with the Union Shield reverse, a design that had only been introduced the year before in 2010 to replace the bicentennial reverse series, with the shield symbolizing unity and preservation of the United States. And at the Denver Mint, millions upon millions of these coins were struck for circulation, most of them completely ordinary. But within this massive production run, mistakes inevitably happened, and it is those mistakes that have turned certain coins into million-dollar marvels. So what kind of mistakes are we talking about? Well, mint errors come in many forms, and on a 2011 D penny you could find doubled dies where the design elements like Lincoln's portrait, the inscriptions such as Liberty, or the date 2011, or even the details of the Union Shield on the reverse appear doubled. And such doubling can be extremely valuable, especially if it is bold and visible without magnification. Another error possibility is off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly centered in the press and part of the design is missing, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area which collectors absolutely love because it makes each coin completely unique. Then there are broad strikes, where a coin is struck without the collar that normally holds its shape, leading to a stretched or expanded appearance, and those can bring in large premiums. And of course, one of the most valuable types of errors is the mule error, where the obverse of a coin is accidentally paired with the wrong reverse die. Though incredibly rare, such a mix-up could happen at the Denver Mint and would make a 2011 D penny unimaginably valuable. And that brings us to the case of the coin said to be worth $2.71 million, because reports suggest that it contains multiple striking mistakes that together make it one of a kind, a once-in-a-lifetime find. Some numismatists suggest it may involve a double-struck error where the coin was struck more than once but in a misaligned way, creating a ghost-like image of Lincoln overlapping with itself, and that sort of dramatic presentation can send values soaring. Now consider how many millions of coins pass through the minting presses, and how automated the process has become. But perfection is impossible, and when human error, machine malfunctions, or simple accidents happen, the result can be an error coin, and if that coin survives quality control and gets released into circulation, it can one day end up in a collector's hand and change their life. And in the case of the 2011 D penny, it's not just the rarity of the error but the timing and condition that matter. Because a coin with this kind of unique flaw must also be preserved in high grade, meaning that it likely avoided circulation and remained in nearly mint state condition, with sharp details, no scratches, and a brilliant luster, which combined with the rare error creates the perfect storm of desirability. But let's take a step back and consider why collectors would pay millions for a coin like this. It's because era coins are the ultimate combination of rarity, mystery, and beauty, unlike regular coins which are produced in the billions. An era is usually one of a handful, sometimes even unique, meaning there may only be one known example, and uniqueness in collectibles is the ultimate driver of value. If only one exists, then wealthy collectors who specialize in eras will do whatever it takes to own it, and that competition drives the price into the millions. Just like fine art or rare stamps, coins can achieve astronomical values when rarity meets demand. And the 2011 D penny with these extraordinary mistakes has become exactly that, a trophy piece for the most advanced collections. But what exactly could have gone wrong at the mint in 2011 to create such an anomaly? Well, let's imagine the minting process step by step. A blank planchet, which is simply a piece of copper-plated zinc, is fed into the press. The dies strike the blank with enormous pressure, imprinting the design, and the finished coin is ejected, and the process repeats thousands of times per minute. But if the blank isn't properly seated, the strike can be off-center. If the dies are misaligned, the design can be doubled or rotated. If the wrong planchet is fed, like one intended for a dime or foreign coin, then you get a wrong planchet error. And if a die from another denomination accidentally makes its way into the press, you can get a mule. And all of these scenarios are documented in the history of mint errors. And in rare cases like the 2011 D penny, they happen in such a dramatic way that collectors go wild. Now think about the psychology behind this. People love the idea that something ordinary, something you might find in your pocket or couch cushions, could actually be worth millions. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, the dream that keeps collectors searching through rolls of coins, boxes from the bank, and even pocket change. And when news spreads that a 2011 D penny brought $2.71 million at auction because of its one-of-a-kind error, it electrifies the hobby, sparking renewed interest in searching and collecting. And that's why these stories continue to grow, because they embody the thrill of discovery. So what kinds of specific errors have been documented on 2011 D cents? Well, some collectors have reported doubled dies on the shield reverse, repunched mint marks where the D was punched more than once and slightly misaligned, off-center strikes up to 40%, which is dramatic and highly collectible, die cracks running across Lincoln's face or the shield, cuds where a piece of the die broke off leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin, and even struck through errors where a piece of debris or grease was on the die, leaving an impressionless area on the coin. And each of these can carry value, but the coin that reached millions must have had something truly beyond the ordinary, perhaps a combination of dramatic doubling, off-center strike, and a rare die pairing, making it essentially a one-of-a-kind showpiece. And what makes this even more interesting is that 2011 was a year when the mint was adjusting production after the economic crisis years, meaning that quality control was tight, but high-speed production left little room for hand inspection, so some major blunders could slip through, and one of those blunders, against all odds, survived to become a multi-million-dollar cent. Now imagine the collector who found it. Maybe it came from a roll of pennies from the bank, maybe from change at a grocery store. Or maybe it was already in a collection for years before its true significance was recognized. The journey of such a coin adds to its mystique, because every legendary era coin has a story of discovery, and in numismatics, the story often enhances the value. So when we talk about a 2011 D penny worth $2.71 million, we are really talking about the perfect storm of rarity, error, condition, and collector demand all converging. And this is why people all over the world, from beginner hobbyists to wealthy investors, are fascinated by such coins, because they prove that history, chance, and luck can transform the humblest of objects into priceless artifacts. And the possibilities don't end there, because every time a new error is discovered, it reshapes our understanding of what's out there. So who knows how many more hidden treasures exist in circulation right now, waiting to be found, maybe in your pocket, maybe in a jar of change at home, or maybe in a roll at the bank. The possibility is endless, and that's the magic of coin collecting. And as we wrap up this incredible story of the 2011 D1 cent that shocked the world, with its $2.71 million price tag, remember that coins like this are more than just metal, they are pieces of art, history, and human error preserved forever. and they remind us to look closely at the small details, because sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep your eyes open, because you never know when the next multimillion-dollar treasure might appear in your hands. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and the incredible story of the 2011 penny, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more amazing discoveries, and join us on the next adventure where we uncover more secrets hidden in plain sight. Next, 2001 Lincoln penny. Today we're going to explore the incredible story of the 2001 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that has been rumored and documented in certain cases to be worth as much as $1.46 million because of its errors, mistakes, and the unique circumstances that make it so valuable in the eyes of collectors and historians. And as we embark on this journey, we'll peel back the layers of history, coin minting processes, common and uncommon errors, the psychology of collectors, the economics of rarity, and the true allure of a single cent that could transform into $1 million prize. And from the moment you hear such a claim, it's natural to be skeptical, because how can something that says just 1 cent on its surface be tied to such astronomical figures? But as we unravel the tale, it becomes clear that coin collecting is not just about face value, but about the stories that shape each piece, the mistakes that slip through the tightly controlled systems of the U.S. Mint, and the passionate chase of those who dedicate their lives to searching for anomalies. And the 2001 penny, minted at the Denver Mint, is a perfect example of how small oversights can lead to extraordinary outcomes. Because 2001 was not known as a year of dramatic mint changes, yet it was a year when millions of coins rolled off the presses and some emerged with flaws, doubling, misalignments, planchet mistakes, and other anomalies that instantly elevated their status in the collector's market. And when we talk about errors, we're not just talking about small scratches or damage from circulation, we're talking about mint errors that occur during the production process, genuine mistakes that make the coin different from the millions of others. Whether it's a doubled die obverse where Lincoln's face or lettering appears doubled, a misaligned die where part of the design is shifted off center, a broad strike error where the coin is flattened beyond its rim, or even a clipped planchet where part of the coin's metal blank was missing from the start. And collectors live for these finds, often willing to pay staggering amounts because they know how few exist. And for the 2001 penny, stories of its $1 million valuation stem from rare documented examples where multiple errors occurred on the same coin, compounding its rarity. For example, a coin that has a doubled die on the obverse and also a misaligned strike on the reverse becomes exponentially rarer because the chances of two major mint errors aligning on one piece are astronomically low. And when auction houses discover such coins and promote them, bidding wars can push values far beyond what casual observers might expect. And that is precisely how something like the 2001 penny can rise to a value like $1.46 million. Because rarity is driven not just by age or mintage numbers but by the uniqueness of its condition and mistakes. And when we consider the Denver Mint in 2001, its primary focus was mass production, churning out billions of cents. But within that ocean of identical coins, it only takes one or two unique anomalies to electrify the collecting world. And collectors know this, which is why they check every pocket-change penny with a magnifying glass, hoping to be the one who stumbles upon that jackpot coin. And as fascinating as it sounds, it's also deeply tied to human psychology. Because the thrill of the hunt, the idea that you could discover a fortune in your everyday change, creates a universal excitement, and that's why stories about rare 2001 pennies resonate with so many, because it represents hope, luck, history, and the power of attention to detail. And if we look deeper into the error types, we find that double die errors are some of the most prized, and on certain 2001 examples, doubling can be spotted in the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," and sometimes on the date itself. And this doubling is not caused by wear but by the way the die was engraved or struck multiple times at slightly different angles, creating an overlapping ghostly effect that fascinates collectors. And in extreme cases, the doubling is visible to the naked eye, making it all the more desirable. And then there are off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically, sometimes as much as 50% off-center. leaving a crescent-shaped blank area on the coin while still showing enough of the design to identify it as a 2001D penny, and such errors are highly collectible, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible, because that combination of off-center rarity with identifiable features ensures its place as a valuable piece. And then consider planchet errors, where the blank metal disc used to strike the coin was flawed, maybe too thin, cracked, clipped, or even a wrong planchet entirely. Like when a penny design is mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that weighs differently and looks strikingly odd, and these wrong planchet errors are some of the most valuable in numismatics, sometimes reaching into hundreds of thousands of dollars on their own. So when combined with the specific year and mint, a 2001D penny with such characteristics could indeed enter the $1 million range, and beyond errors, condition plays a vital role. Because coin grading by professional services like PCGS or NGC can drastically affect the value, with coins in pristine, uncirculated, or mint state condition being worth far more than heavily circulated ones, and when a rare error coin is also in high-grade condition, the demand multiplies, and collectors with deep pockets compete aggressively, driving prices to astronomical levels. And this is how we reach the seemingly unbelievable figure of $1.46 million for a coin most people would overlook, because scarcity, uniqueness, and demand intersect at a magical point, creating record-breaking prices. And the 2001D penny serves as a reminder that the tiniest details matter, that a small slip in an industrial process can transform a coin from pocket change into a prize, and it also highlights how history is captured in metal, because every coin carries the marks of its era, the decisions of its engravers, the oversight of its mint workers, and even the accidents that slipped past quality control, making it a frozen piece of a specific moment in time. And when collectors pay millions, they're not just buying metal, they're buying a story, an artifact, a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly. And for those who dream of finding such treasures, the 2001D penny represents possibility, because who knows what's hiding in jars of coins in attics, in cash registers, in change received at a grocery store, and it's that possibility that fuels the ongoing fascination with coins like this, because anyone, anywhere, at any time, could discover a fortune if they take the time to look closely. And so the story of the 2001D penny worth $1.46 million is not just about numismatics, it's about history, economics, human curiosity, and the thrill of discovery. And as long as people continue to search, the legend of these coins will live on, and that brings us to the end of this incredible exploration. So if you enjoyed diving into the hidden world of rare coins and learning how an ordinary 2001D penny can transform into $1 million treasure through its errors, mistakes, and unique qualities, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more amazing stories about history, collectibles, and the treasures that might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Next, the 1992 1-cent coin, a coin that at first glance looks like just another ordinary penny you might pass by on the sidewalk or dig out of your pocket change, but when looked at closely reveals secrets, errors, and mistakes that transform its worth from a mere cent into millions of dollars, with some specimens being valued as high as $4 million. And that incredible value doesn't just come from hype or exaggeration, it comes from real numismatic history, real production mistakes at the United States Mint, and the rarity that collectors crave. So let's dive deep into why this coin is so remarkable and how tiny details can mean the difference between pocket change and life-changing money. Because when we are talking about the 1992 penny, we are looking at a transitional design period. A time when the U.S. Mint was shifting dies and making adjustments between the Lincoln Memorial cent and later design standards. And during that period, certain coins escaped with design mismatches. Most famously the 1992 closed AM variety, where the letters A and M in America on the reverse design are almost touching instead of having a wider space like on the standard issue. And that subtle difference is one of the major reasons why this coin can be worth millions, since only a tiny handful were minted in error and slipped into circulation before the mint realized the design transition mistake. And when you consider how many billions of pennies were produced in 1992, the fact that only a few of these close AM examples exist makes them astronomically rare, The kind of rarity that sends collectors into bidding wars at auctions and drives the value far beyond what most people would ever imagine a penny could fetch. But the close AM isn't the only error or oddity that makes the 1992 cent special. There are also examples with striking mistakes, off-center errors, double dies, and misaligned strikes that can drastically increase the value depending on condition and severity. For example, a 1992 penny with a strong double die obverse showing doubling in Lincoln's profile or the lettering could easily bring in thousands. But when you combine that kind of dramatic error with the already rare closed AM variety, you are talking about a coin that collectors would spend any price to obtain, pushing values into the multi-million range. And that's how we get the jaw-dropping figure of $4 million for 1 cent, because rarity, condition, error type, and collector demand all align perfectly in these cases. Now imagine holding a 1992 penny in your hand, the copper-plated zinc composition just like any other, weighing about 2.5 grams, looking fairly ordinary with Lincoln's familiar profile on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back, but with that one key difference where the letters in America are too close together, so close that it screams error to those who know what to look for, and yet for the average person it might go completely unnoticed, making the chances of one being discovered in pocket change almost like winning the lottery. And yet it has happened. People have found these coins unknowingly and later realized the fortune they were holding, sparking a frenzy among collectors who now meticulously check every 1992 penny they come across just in case. But let's expand on why the close AM detail matters so much. Because in 1992 the Mint was preparing dies for the new design standard that would be officially used starting in 1993. But somehow a reverse die intended for the 1993 close AM proof design was accidentally paired with 1992 business strike obverse dies, creating a very small number of transitional error coins that shouldn't exist at all. And that's the key. Because coins that shouldn't exist are always the most valuable, and these have become legendary among collectors. So much so that they are often considered holy grails of modern coin collecting. And when one comes up for auction, the bidding wars are fierce, with prices climbing into the millions, especially if the coin is in pristine mint state condition graded by top grading services like PCGS or NGC, because condition matters as much as rarity, and a coin graded MS67 or higher could be worth dramatically more than one in circulated condition, even though both are rare. And that potential for pristine examples to fetch staggering prices is what makes the 1992 close AM penny one of the most talked about coins in American numismatics. But besides the close AM, there are other varieties in 1992 that people chase, such as wide AM struck with proof dies or cents showing die cracks, cuds, or off-metal errors. For example, a 1992 cent mistakenly struck on a dime planchet would weigh less and look thinner, and those off-metal strikes are instantly valuable because of their rarity. And then you have broad strikes where the collar failed, causing the coin to spread wider and look odd, or off-center strikes where Lincoln's face is only partially on the coin. And these kinds of errors, while not unique to 1992, still carry extra intrigue when tied to a year already famous for its rare close AM variety. And so collectors are extra alert when examining 1992 cents. Because the combination of errors can mean massive money. Now, when we talk about value, we also have to consider the psychology of collectors. Because part of what drives the price so high is not just the physical rarity of the coin, but also the prestige of owning it. Imagine being the collector who holds one of perhaps only a dozen known 1992 close AM pennies in existence. That ownership is a badge of honor, a piece of history. And the bragging rights alone make people bid more than they otherwise would, and auction houses know this, which is why they publicize these sales so widely, fueling more excitement and interest, and as demand grows the price naturally climbs. So what starts as a coin worth maybe thousands quickly becomes worth millions as more people compete to have it, and when one finally sells for a record price, like $4 million, it sets the benchmark for future sales, ensuring that the legend of the 1992 penny continues to grow. But this story also teaches us the importance of paying attention to small details, because how many people in 1992 received these coins and change and spent them without a second thought, never realizing they were holding something that could change their life, and how many still sit undiscovered in jars, drawers, or collections waiting for someone with sharp eyes to notice the subtle design difference. And that possibility excites collectors everywhere, because it means the next millionaire making discovery could be in their own home. And this treasure hunt aspect is part of why coin collecting remains so popular, because ordinary people have a chance to stumble upon extraordinary value. And in the case of the 1992 penny, the odds are tiny, but the reward is massive. Now let's talk about grading and authentication, because with such high stakes there are always fakes and altered coins out there, and only a professional grading service can truly confirm whether a 1992 penny is the real close AM variety, since many people have tried to alter coins by pressing the letters closer together or smoothing spaces. But experts know how to detect these fakes. And only a genuine authenticated specimen will command the multi-million-dollar price, and once authenticated, the coin is usually sealed in a protective holder with its grade displayed, and that adds to its credibility and resale value. And speaking of resale, the market for such coins is global, with wealthy collectors from around the world willing to pay astronomical amounts to add one to their collection, which further drives up demand and ensures that the legend of the 1992 close AM penny is not just an American phenomenon but an international one, and the fact that it ties into Abraham Lincoln, one of the most iconic presidents in U.S. history, only adds to its appeal, since Lincoln is a beloved figure and coins bearing his image carry extra historical weight. And when you add in the story of mint mistakes, design transitions, and the thrill of discovery, you have the perfect storm of factors that make this tiny 1-cent piece worth millions. And that's why the 1992 penny has earned its place in coin collecting history, standing alongside other great rarities like the 1909 SVDB, the 1955 double die, and the 1943 copper cent. But what sets the 1992 penny apart is that it belongs to a modern era where people assume coins are too mass-produced to have such valuable mistakes, proving that even in the late 20th century incredible rarities can still appear. So the lesson is clear: never overlook even the most ordinary-looking coin, because hidden value could be staring right back at you. And before we wrap up this journey into the world of the 1992 1-cent coin, let's reflect on what makes it truly special. It is not just a piece of metal, not just a monetary instrument, but a piece of history, a product of human error and chance that turned into a multi-million-dollar treasure, and it embodies the spirit of collecting itself, the thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, and the awe of holding something that by all logic shouldn't exist but somehow does. And that is why the 1992 penny has captured the imagination of so many, and why its story will continue to be told for generations to come. So if you've enjoyed this deep exploration into the tale of a 1-cent piece worth $4 million because of its errors and mistakes, make sure to like this video. Next, 2011 Lincoln penny. Today, as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures that might be sitting right in your pocket change, and in this episode we are going to unravel the story of the 2011 1-cent coin, a penny minted in Denver that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts because of its unique errors, mistakes, and striking oddities that have elevated its potential worth to an incredible $2.21 million, a number that shocks most people because we often think of a penny as the lowest denomination in circulation, something we pass around without a second thought. Yet when errors, misstrikes, and anomalies occur during minting, the coin transforms from everyday pocket change into a historical artifact, a financial gem, and a collector's dream. So today let us take you on a long, detailed, and thoroughly engaging journey into why the 2011 penny can reach such astronomical value, what kinds of errors make it so valuable, how these mistakes happen, how collectors and grading services analyze such coins, and why these rare occurrences excite the numismatic community and command such huge prices at auctions around the world. Because in the case of the 2011 cent, it is not simply the date or the mint mark that drives value, but rather the hidden details. The small mistakes that slipped through the rigorous controls of the U.S. Mint and found their way into circulation, and once discovered, they became legendary among coin hunters. Starting with the basics, the 2011 penny belongs to the Lincoln Shield cent series, which replaced the earlier Lincoln Memorial design, and it features a Union shield on the reverse side symbolizing national unity and Lincoln's portrait on the obverse. And although billions were minted that year, certain Denver-struck pieces came out with remarkable flaws ranging from double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, cuds, misaligned dies, broad strikes, and even rare planchet errors. Each of these errors represents a unique possibility for extreme value. For example, a doubled die obverse could show Lincoln's profile with doubled lettering on phrases like, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 2011. And such doubling, if strong and visible, makes a coin rare because it confirms a mistake at the hubbing process of the die, and collectors pay big money for clear doubling that stands out to the naked eye. Then we have off-center strikes where the coin is not struck perfectly within the collar, and instead shows part of the design missing or shifted off to one side, and in extreme cases more than half of Lincoln's portrait might be missing, which makes the coin rare because it tells the story of a dramatic minting mistake. And even more rare are coins that show both off-center striking and a readable date with mint mark, because collectors want to see the error but also have confirmation of when and where the coin was minted. Then we have die cracks and cuds, which are fascinating in their own right, as these occur when the die used to strike the coin develops cracks or breaks and leaves raised lines or missing chunks of design on the coin's surface. And when a large piece of the die breaks away, it leaves a blank area called a cud that is often dramatic and eye-catching, and a 2011 D penny with a large cud can sell for thousands because each cud is unique and no two look alike, which turns them into miniature works of art created by accident. Another possibility is a misaligned die, where one die is slightly shifted when striking, leading to uneven borders or distorted images. And while minor misalignments are common and not valuable, extreme misalignments are rare and fetch high premiums. And then we consider broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking fails, allowing the metal to spread outward and create an unusually large, misshapen coin with missing rims, which collectors love because it visually looks like a mistake that should never have left the mint. And broad strikes with full details and sharp errors are worth thousands. Then there are planchet errors, which are particularly fascinating because they occur even before the coin is struck, such as when a planchet is improperly prepared, clipped, or made of the wrong metal. And a 2011 D penny struck on a foreign planchet or a transitional metal can be one of the rarest finds ever, and history tells us that transitional errors, where a coin was struck on leftover planchets from previous years, can reach values in the millions, which explains why this penny could be valued at $2.21 million in unique cases, because a collector will pay anything for a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And when you think about it, the minting process involves multiple steps: creating blanks, upsetting the edges, striking with dies, and quality control. And with billions of coins being produced every year, mistakes are bound to happen, but the ones that escape detection and reach circulation in collectible condition are like winning lottery tickets, hidden among billions of normal coins. And that is what fuels the treasure hunting excitement among everyday people who check their pocket change, roll hunt boxes from the bank, or purchase unsearched rolls in hopes of discovering that miracle coin. And the 2011 D penny is a perfect example because while most of them are worth 1 cent, the error-ridden examples become superstars of the numismatic world, commanding values beyond imagination. And the $2.21 million figure is not random. It reflects the upper echelon of what collectors have demonstrated they are willing to pay for a combination of rarity, condition, and error type, with the coin possibly being graded by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, which authenticate and assign numerical grades that influence price dramatically. For instance, a mint state coin with a dramatic double die error and virtually no wear could be valued astronomically higher than a circulated example, because collectors want perfection mixed with rarity. And in auction houses, bidding wars often erupt when a once-in-a-generation error coin appears, leading to million-dollar prices that make headlines. And while some may scoff at the idea of a penny being worth $2.21 million, history shows us countless examples, such as the 1943 copper Lincoln cent that sold for over $1 million, the 1955 double die cent, or the 1974 aluminum cent, all of which demonstrate the market's hunger for rare and unique pennies. So when we put the 2011 penny in context, it makes sense that with the right error, right condition, and right demand, it can soar into multi-million-dollar territory. And this inspires thousands of collectors to keep looking, to never dismiss a penny as worthless, and to study the subtle details of coins under magnification. Because the difference between a common penny and a million-dollar rarity could be just a small doubling of a letter, a crack in the die, or a shift in alignment. And as we explore deeper into possibilities, let us imagine a 2011 penny struck on a leftover pre-1982 copper planchet rather than the normal zinc composition. Instantly that makes it rare because the weight difference would reveal its uniqueness, and copper transitional errors are incredibly valuable. Or imagine one struck on a dime planchet, which would make the coin smaller and lighter, and such off-metal errors are some of the most highly prized among collectors, reaching into hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, and it is this realm of possibilities that justifies the $2.21 million valuation, because when rarity intersects with collector demand and historical narrative, the price has no limits. And this is why coin collecting continues to capture human imagination, because it combines history, artistry, and chance, reminding us that something as small and ordinary as a penny can hold secrets of great fortune. And with that in mind, the 2011 penny stands as a beacon for treasure hunters, a symbol of how overlooked change in your hand could secretly be worth life-changing amounts. So keep your eyes open, check your change, study the details, and who knows, maybe you too will stumble upon a 2011 penny with a rare error that could be worth millions. And as always, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the story of rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another fascinating story that could help you discover the wealth hiding in plain sight. Next, 1985 1-cent coin. Today's story revolves around the incredible tale of the 1985 1-cent coin that has become the subject of collectors' fascination and worth an astonishing $18 million because of its rare errors and mistakes, making it one of the most discussed and speculated coins in the world of numismatics. And as we go through this journey together, we will uncover how such a small piece of copper-plated zinc could carry with it a value that rivals luxury mansions, sports cars, or even small islands, and why the tiniest imperfections during minting have turned what was intended to be just another penny into an item of legendary status. So sit back and imagine holding a 1985 penny in your palm, the same kind of coin millions of people once used for gum, newspapers, or to complete an even dollar at the checkout. Yet hidden among those countless ordinary pieces exists a tiny handful with mistakes that set them apart, mistakes that collectors would fight over at auctions and historians would marvel at when studying the complexity of minting in the 1980s, because the first key detail to understand is the context in which this coin was made, as the 1985 penny was part of the Lincoln cent series, a continuation of the design honoring Abraham Lincoln that had been in circulation since 1909. And by this time the coin had transitioned from its original bronze composition to a copper-plated zinc planchet that sometimes created problems at the United States Mint, because the new composition introduced in 1982 was thinner, lighter, and less stable during striking, leading to an increased chance of errors. And here is where the story of the valuable 1985 penny begins, as the mistakes tied to this year range from off-center strikes to double dies, from broad strikes to missing details, and each variation carries its own mystique. Some examples of the 1985 penny have exhibited a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile, the date, or even the motto, "In God We Trust," appears doubled, and doubling errors are highly prized because they are a direct result of the die creation process, a flaw that essentially stamps a coin with an unintentional unique signature, and when collectors find such doubling, they pay premiums that can reach extraordinary levels. But beyond doubled dies there are even more intriguing mistakes. For example, off-center strikes where the design is shifted from its intended position, sometimes leaving blank metal showing, or broad strikes where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads outward, producing a distorted, oversized penny that immediately catches the eye. And among 1985 pennies there are even reports of wrong planchet errors, where a cent was accidentally struck on the wrong metal blank intended for another denomination such as a dime, leading to coins that are thinner, lighter, and oddly shaped compared to normal. And such dramatic errors command staggering auction results, especially when authenticated by grading services like PCGS or NGC, which certify that the piece is genuine and catalog it for future generations. And the mystery behind the $18 million valuation lies in a combination of extreme rarity, condition, provenance, and demand, because while many 1985 pennies were struck, only a few bear these dramatic mistakes. And even fewer survive in mint state condition, free from scratches and circulation wear. And it is this combination that sets apart the 1-cent coin that reportedly sold for $18 million. As collectors and investors alike saw it not just as a flawed coin but as a historical artifact, a mistake frozen in time that reflected the challenges of the U.S. Mint during the mid-1980s. And let us not forget that rarity alone does not always equate to value, but when rarity intersects with strong demand, dramatic visual appeal, and authentication, then prices can soar into the millions, especially in a market where wealthy collectors compete to own one-of-a-kind pieces. And the 1985 penny with its error stands as a symbol of how imperfections can create perfection in the eyes of numismatics, turning a 1-cent piece into a fortune. And beyond the headline-making $18 million figure, there are countless stories of other 1985 pennies selling for smaller yet still impressive sums, from hundreds to thousands of dollars depending on the type of error and grade. Because for every jaw-dropping sale there are also enthusiasts who simply cherish the hunt, searching through pocket change, bank rolls, or inherited jars of coins in hopes of spotting a tiny detail that sets their penny apart. And this is where the excitement of coin collecting thrives, the idea that a hidden treasure may be waiting in the most ordinary places. And what makes this tale even richer is the possibility of undiscovered errors still circulating, since not every flawed coin is immediately spotted, meaning that someone could still stumble upon a 1985 penny with an extraordinary error that no one has yet documented, and the possibilities keep the legend alive, fueling speculation and driving new collectors into the field. And when we consider why mistakes happen in the first place, it is a fascinating dive into the mechanics of coin production, where dies must be engraved, hubs must be aligned, planchets must be fed correctly, and striking pressure must be perfect. Yet any slight deviation in this process creates anomalies. And in 1985 the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies, so the sheer scale of output made it impossible to catch every mistake, and that's how error coins slipped through into circulation, later to be discovered by sharp-eyed collectors, and each discovery builds the mythology, each auction sets a new precedent, and each story told inspires the next generation to examine their change more carefully, and in the larger context of numismatics. The 1985 penny illustrates how coins serve as both currency and historical documents, because they carry not only the image of Lincoln and inscriptions of national mottos but also the fingerprints of the minting process, the history of metallurgy, and the economic conditions of their time. And when a mistake occurs, it is like a wrinkle in that history, preserved forever in metal, and valued precisely because it is not supposed to exist. So when we say that the 1985 penny costs $18 million, we are really saying that collectors have placed that value on the story, the uniqueness, and the rarity of the error, a testament to how human imperfection and mechanical missteps can sometimes produce objects of unimaginable worth. And so as you hear this story, you might be wondering if your own 1985 penny is valuable, and the answer depends on careful inspection, magnification, and sometimes professional grading. Because while most are worth only face value, the rare few with errors can be worth life-changing amounts, and that thrill of possibility is what makes coin collecting both a hobby and an adventure, as every drawer, piggy bank, or inherited collection could hold a hidden fortune. And so the legacy of the 1985 penny lives on, not just as an isolated sale but as part of the broader narrative of error coins, those fascinating mistakes that remind us how even in systems built for precision there is always room for the unexpected. And it is in that unexpected space that legends are born, fortunes are made, and history is remembered. So the next time you pick up a penny, especially one from 1985, take a closer look, because you never know if you might be holding the next multimillion-dollar treasure. And with that, thank you for joining this exploration of one of the most remarkable coins in history, a tiny piece of metal with a massive story behind it. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories of everyday items that turned into fortunes beyond imagination. Next, 2004 1-cent coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that combines history, rarity, mistakes, human curiosity, and the thrilling possibility of a simple coin from your pocket being worth a fortune. Because in this video we are going to unravel the incredible tale of the 2004 1-cent coin that is rumored to be worth as much as $3.21 million, a staggering amount for something that was meant to have only the smallest value in everyday transactions, and yet because of its unique errors and striking mistakes it has climbed into the ranks of legendary coins that have captured the imagination of collectors, investors, historians, and ordinary people who dream of stumbling across treasure in the most unexpected places. And when we think of the penny, the humble 1-cent piece, most of us think of it as virtually worthless, tossed into jars, forgotten at the bottom of drawers, or left in change machines. But the truth is that certain pennies, minted under unique circumstances, can command astronomical sums when they contain errors, variations, or anomalies that make them extremely rare. And that is precisely the case with the 2004 1-cent coin we're talking about today, because the reason this little piece of copper-plated zinc is so valuable is not due to its face value or even its intrinsic metal content, but rather because of the human mistakes in its creation, the accidents at the mint, the quirks in its production, and the fact that collectors have since come to treasure those imperfections as priceless. And so today we will embark on a long and detailed journey into what makes the 2004 penny so special, why it has been linked with a valuation as high as $3.21 million, what kinds of errors and varieties exist within its production, and how these tiny details can transform something so ordinary into something extraordinary. And to understand that, we first need to set the stage of what was happening in 2004 with the Lincoln cent, a coin that had already been in circulation for nearly a century, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, becoming the first circulating American coin to feature the likeness of a real person instead of a symbolic figure. And over the years the design of the Lincoln cent saw changes, most notably in 1959 when the reverse was changed from the wheat ears design to the Lincoln Memorial design, which continued through 2008. And in 2004 the cent was still part of that Lincoln Memorial reverse era, with the familiar obverse showing Lincoln's profile design by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse featuring the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo. But what collectors really look for are not just the standard designs but the little deviations from perfection, the slip-ups in the minting process, the doubled dies, the off-center strikes, the clipped planchets, the die cracks, the misaligned dies, and all of those possible mistakes that can creep into coin production. And in 2004 several such errors appeared in the Lincoln cent that made some examples so rare and valuable that they achieved legendary status. So let's start with one of the most famous categories of valuable penny errors, the doubled die, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin has been engraved with a doubled image, leading to letters, numbers, or parts of the design appearing doubled to the naked eye. And in 2004 collectors reported doubled die examples, particularly on the obverse, where the date 2004 showed evidence of doubling, as well as the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word "Liberty," with some specimens showing such clear doubling that they became highly desirable. And when only a small number of such coins exist, demand far outstrips supply, driving values into the hundreds of thousands, even millions, especially when a coin is preserved in mint state condition, because condition is another crucial factor, with high-grade coins certified by professional grading services commanding exponentially higher prices than worn examples. And beyond doubled dies, another famous error that appeared in 2004 cents involved off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly seated in the press and the design is struck off-center, leaving a portion of the blank planchet exposed. And depending on how dramatic the off-center strike is, such coins can be highly collectible, especially if the date remains visible, And some 2004 pennies with significant off-center strikes have sold for thousands, while extreme examples with nearly half the design missing can be worth tens of thousands. And when coupled with other errors, such as die breaks, these can reach even higher values. And speaking of die breaks, 2004 produced a number of what collectors call cuds, which are raised, blob-like features on the coin caused when a piece of the die breaks away, leaving a void that fills with metal during striking, and coins with large cuds can be visually dramatic and highly prized, and in rare cases, coins showing multiple errors at once, such as a double die combined with an off-center strike and a die break, can become virtually one-of-a-kind pieces, pushing their value into the stratosphere. And then there are wrong planchet errors, where a coin is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin, and while not extremely common in 2004, the possibility of such coins existing adds to the mystique, with examples known from other years fetching enormous sums, sometimes hundreds of thousands. And all of these errors combined create a landscape where the 2004 penny becomes more than just pocket change, it becomes a potential jackpot, a dream find that could change someone's life. And that's where the figure of $3.21 million enters the story. Because when you have an ultra-rare error coin from a modern year like 2004, preserved in pristine condition, with dramatic mistakes that set it apart from millions of ordinary pennies, the market can go wild, with bidding wars among collectors who want to own a piece of numismatic history. And just think about it, a coin struck in 2004, when most of us were busy with everyday life, could now be sitting in someone's collection, insured and guarded, valued at millions, and it makes you wonder how many people may have unknowingly spent such a coin years ago, tossing it into circulation without a second thought, never realizing they had given away a fortune. And that is the thrilling mystery of coin collecting, because treasure hides in plain sight, waiting for sharp eyes and curious minds to recognize it. And when we look closely at the 2004 penny, we can see how all the factors align to create the perfect storm of value, rarity, and intrigue. From the history of the Lincoln cent to the errors of that particular year, from the fascination with doubling to the drama of off-center strikes, from the bold look of a cud to the mystique of a wrong planchet, each layer adds to its allure, and collectors thrive on these stories. They build collections not just of coins but of narratives, of pieces of history that connect to human error and chance. And that's why the 2004 penny stands out, because it represents the idea that something ordinary can, by the smallest twist of fate, become extraordinary. And if you think about the journey of a penny, from the mint to pockets, registers, piggy banks, vending machines, parking meters, and eventually into circulation jars, the odds that a coin with such a unique error could survive without being damaged, without being lost, and then be discovered in mint condition, are astronomically low, which is exactly why it becomes so valuable when it does, and this makes people dream. It fuels the imagination, it makes them look at their spare change differently, because who knows? Maybe hidden in your pocket right now is a coin that could pay off a house, fund a retirement, or become a family heirloom passed down through generations. And the 2004 penny valued at $3.21 million is a shining example of that possibility, a symbol of how small details matter, how imperfections can become perfection in the eyes of collectors, and how history can be written not just in grand monuments and wars but in the tiniest mistakes stamped onto the smallest coins. And as we reflect on this, it's clear that the 2004 penny is more than just money, it is a story, a dream, and an invitation to look closer, to search harder, and to believe that treasure is out there, waiting. And so as we close this journey into the fascinating world of the 2004 1-cent coin worth millions, remember to always pay attention to the details, because they just might change your life. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins, make sure to like this video. Subscribe to our channel for more stories of hidden treasures, and share this with friends who love history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. Next, 1981 1-cent coin. Today we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in numismatics, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike, because we are going to talk about the 1981 1-cent coin, a coin that most people might walk past or spend without a second thought. Yet under certain extraordinary circumstances this very same coin has been valued at an incredible $24 million due to the combination of rare errors, mistakes, and possibilities that have made it one of the most mysterious and valuable cents ever produced. And as we journey through this tale you will see how a humble penny transformed into a world-class collectible, why experts and collectors have fought to understand its significance, and how different striking errors and minting mishaps have elevated it far beyond its intended worth. So sit back and get ready as we unravel the many factors that make this 1981 cent so remarkable, and why it is considered one of the most talked about small denomination coins in modern U.S. history, because the story begins with the context of coin production in the late 1970s and early 1980s when the United States Mint was undergoing significant transitions in materials, designs, and production methods, with 1982 being the critical year of change from copper to copper-plated zinc composition, but right before that, the 1981 cents were still struck in the traditional 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc alloy, giving them the heavier feel that longtime collectors love, and it is in this environment that certain experimental strikes, die errors, planchet mistakes, and misalignments occurred, creating a small batch of 1981 cents that would eventually stun the collecting community. And among the most talked about are double die obverse and reverse errors where the inscriptions such as Liberty, the date 1981, or the phrase I in God we trust appear doubled or distorted due to slight shifts in the die during striking, giving the coin a ghost-like appearance of lettering that should not exist. And when collectors discovered such double die variations, they realized that they were not just curiosities but extreme rarities, since only a limited number ever leave the mint with these flaws. And then there are off-center strikes where the design does not land perfectly in the middle of the planchet but is shifted so that parts of the coin are blank while other portions show a crescent of the image, and the more dramatic the off-center, particularly if it still shows a full date, the more valuable the piece becomes, because for collectors it represents a perfect storm of error, rarity, and eye appeal. And even more intriguing are instances of broad strikes where the coin is struck without the collar that normally gives it its precise circular edge, resulting in a stretched, expanded coin that looks misshapen but is in fact a true mint error, and each of these mistakes becomes like a fingerprint, unique in its own right, with collectors willing to pay astronomical sums for examples in pristine condition. And then there are transitional errors which may have played into the mystique of the 1981 cent, because with the mint preparing for composition changes in 1982, there are persistent rumors and some evidence of test strikes and experimental planchets being used in the prior year, meaning a few 1981 cents may have been struck on planchets not intended for circulation, such as zinc-based or even foreign coin planchets, which creates an immediate rarity because they were never supposed to exist, and those who find or own such coins possess something that bridges two eras of U.S. coinage. And this transitional element is exactly the type of anomaly that collectors crave, because it ties history, rarity, and mistake into a single piece of metal, and it is this combination of double die varieties, off-center strikes, broad strikes, transitional planchets, and even possible wrong metal errors that has driven certain 1981 cents into legendary status, with values soaring beyond anything anyone might expect for a penny, culminating in the extraordinary valuation of one particular specimen at $24 million, a price tag that shocks the casual observer but makes perfect sense to those deep in the collecting world where rarity and story mean everything. And part of what makes this coin so alluring is the possibility factor, because the mint of that era was producing billions of coins annually, yet only a handful of errors slipped through, and the odds of such a coin surviving circulation without being damaged or destroyed are so slim that when one does surface, in high grade, with extraordinary errors, it instantly becomes one of the most desirable coins in existence, and collectors dream of stumbling upon such a piece in pocket change or in an old jar of pennies. Because the potential life-changing value of a 1981 error cent is not just folklore but a proven reality, and when word spreads of million-dollar pennies, it ignites the imagination of people everywhere, fueling hunts at flea markets, estate sales, and coin rolls pulled straight from the bank. And this is where the passion of numismatics intersects with everyday life, because hidden treasures can truly be found in the most ordinary places, And when we talk about $24 million for a penny, we are not merely discussing the value of copper or the cost of production, but rather the convergence of history, accident, rarity, and collector demand. And that is why the 1981 1-cent piece has become a beacon of possibility, reminding us that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest stories. And as you think about your own change, your own coins tucked away in drawers or jars, remember that each cent carries not just a face value but a history and a potential waiting to be uncovered. And the story of the 1981 cent is living proof of how even the most overlooked objects can hold unimaginable worth. And so the next time you glance at a penny, let this tale inspire you to look a little closer, because you never know if the next coin in your hand might be the key to a fortune. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of valuable coinage, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another story of small treasures worth big money. Next, the 1988 1-cent coin, a humble penny that most people would simply overlook in their pocket change, but one that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts with its incredible value of up to $11 million due to rare errors and mistakes during production. And as we explore this extraordinary piece of numismatic history, we'll reveal why a coin that normally is worth just 1 cent could become a symbol of rarity, chance, and fortune. So sit back as we take a journey through minting processes, historical context, types of errors, collector psychology, and the incredible possibilities that make the 1988 1-cent coin so valuable. Because understanding why something as small as a penny can command the price of a luxury estate or a high-end sports car is not just about the coin itself but about the human fascination with imperfection, scarcity, and the stories we build around objects. And when it comes to the 1988 penny, the story is truly remarkable, starting with its place in history. Produced during a time when the United States Mint was making billions of 1-cent coins each year to satisfy demand, the 1988 penny followed the standard design introduced in 1959 by Frank Gasparo, featuring the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse with the word Liberty to the left and the year of issue to the right, and on the reverse the familiar Lincoln Memorial design. But despite being a part of mass production where precision is expected, the minting process is never perfect, and sometimes mistakes slip through, and when they do, they create varieties that collectors seek for decades. And in 1988 the mint saw several mistakes and transitional errors that transformed ordinary cents into coins worth millions, and the most famous among them is the 1988 transitional error cent, where the obverse die used was actually prepared for the following year, 1989, leading to the variety known as the 1988 reverse of 1989 cent, or the 1988 variety with the reverse hub design. Mismatch, a coin that seems ordinary at first glance but under magnification reveals subtle details in the lettering and the design of the Lincoln Memorial that belong to a different year, making it a striking example of minting errors that spark frenzy among collectors. And when you realize that most 1988 pennies are common zinc cents with a thin copper plating weighing 2.5 grams, finding one with an error is like striking gold in disguise, and the fascination grows further when you consider other types of errors reported on 1988 pennies, such as double dies where the design elements appear slightly duplicated, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin was not properly aligned during striking, broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal rim due to collar malfunctions, clipped planchets where the coin was cut from metal sheets incorrectly leaving a crescent-shaped bite mark, and even wrong planchet errors where a cent may have been struck on a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin, and each of these error types transforms what would otherwise be a common cent into a museum-worthy treasure. And when rarity meets demand, the prices skyrocket. So when a transitional variety like the 1988 reverse of 1989 cent or a dramatic error coin appears at auction, collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums. And that's why the market valuation has reached the incredible figure of $11 million for certain specimens, because rarity in numismatics is not just about low survival rates but also about intrigue, provenance, and collector passion. And the 1988 cent has all of these qualities. Now let's dive deeper into how such errors even happen. The minting process begins with blanking sheets of metal, cutting them into round planchets, then feeding them into presses where dies strike designs onto them with thousands of pounds of pressure. But if the wrong die is used, or if the die is misaligned, or if a planchet is defective, errors occur. And in 1988, with the transition to the new reverse hub design prepared for 1989, some dies were mistakenly used to strike coins in 1988, resulting in the famous variety. And this type of mistake is especially fascinating because it connects two different minting years, creating a transitional anomaly that should not exist, yet does. And when collectors discovered it, they realized they were looking at history caught in metal, an accident that became priceless, and the possibilities grow even more intriguing when you consider how many such coins might exist, because unlike intentional designs where millions are struck, error coins may exist in only a handful of examples, and scarcity is what drives value. So when only a small group of 1988 transitional error cents is known, the competition among elite collectors to own one pushes prices into the millions. And beyond the transitional error, there are countless other small mistakes that can make 1,988 pennies worth hundreds of thousands. For example, a double die obverse where the date or lettering appears doubled due to hubbing mistakes, or a misaligned die strike where Lincoln's profile is shifted off center, or coins struck on leftover copper planchets from before 1982 when pennies weighed 3.11 grams. And each variation adds new layers of fascination, and collectors spend years studying die markers, tiny scratches, and mint characteristics to authenticate and classify them, and the human element of this obsession cannot be overlooked, because collecting rare coins is not just about owning a piece of metal, it is about owning a story, and the 1988 penny tells a story of change, error, and chance, a story where the tiniest design difference can elevate a 1-cent piece into a multimillion-dollar artifact. And this is why when a 1988 error cent appears in auctions it draws global attention. With bidding wars between seasoned collectors, museums, and investors who see coins not only as historical objects, but as financial assets, because rare coins often outperform traditional investments in terms of long-term value appreciation. And when the object in question is a penny worth $11 million, it becomes the ultimate example of numismatic wealth. And let's not forget the psychological thrill of searching for such coins. Thousands of people check their pocket change every day hoping to stumble upon a hidden gem. And while most will find only ordinary cents, the possibility of uncovering a 1988 error cent worth millions keeps the excitement alive, and this treasure hunt aspect makes coin collecting one of the most engaging hobbies in the world, blending history, art, economics, and pure luck. And with the 1988 penny we see all of these elements at play, because on one hand it is a common coin produced by the billions, yet on the other hand it harbors secrets and mistakes that make some examples more valuable than the most luxurious diamonds. And what's even more astonishing is that many of these rare coins were initially overlooked, sitting in jars, drawers, and piggy banks for years before someone recognized their value. So it's entirely possible that some of you watching might have a fortune hiding in plain sight. And when you think about it, this is what makes the story of the 1988 penny so powerful. It blurs the line between ordinary and extraordinary, between the overlooked and the priceless. And it reminds us that value is often hidden where we least expect it. Now, if we expand on the specific error known as the reverse of 1989 cent, it comes down to a tiny difference in the design of the mint mark, specifically the shape of the letters in America, and the position of the designer's initials FG at the base of the Lincoln Memorial. These micro details are what specialists use to determine if a coin belongs to the rare error variety. And it is astonishing that such a minuscule difference, invisible to the naked eye for most people, can translate into millions of dollars. But that is the reality of the coin world, where detail is everything and rarity amplifies value. And beyond that we can consider the possibility of experimental planchets or off-metal strikes where a 1988 cent might have been struck on a foreign coin blank or leftover material. And when authenticated, these unique coins become unmatched treasures. And when you stack together transitional errors, double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchets, and clipped planchets, you realize the vast universe of mistakes that could occur, each one a potential gold mine, each one adding to the mystique of the 1988 penny. And that is why collectors are willing to place values that seem unimaginable for an everyday coin, because what they are really buying is rarity, story, and ownership of a piece of history that connects minting technology, human error, and the randomness of chance. And as we come full circle, the 1988 1-cent coin valued at $11 million stands as a reminder of how something designed for the most ordinary purpose, passing from hand to hand unnoticed, can become an object of extraordinary worth, and it demonstrates that in the world of collectibles, perfection is not what makes something valuable, it is imperfection, it is the slip-ups, the missteps, the anomalies that turn a cent into a treasure chest. And so the story of the 1988 penny is not just about metal and design, it is about possibility, and for every collector, hobbyist, or curious person out there, it fuels the dream that the next coin found in change could be the one, the rare one, the $1 million. Last, 1984 1-cent coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and investors alike with a rumored value reaching as high as $28 million, not because it was minted in gold or because it was part of some government experiment, but because of the remarkable and unique errors and mistakes that occurred during its creation and survival over the years, turning what was supposed to be an ordinary penny into one of the most extraordinary rarities in numismatic history. And as we journey through this exploration, we'll uncover the details of what makes such an otherwise common-looking coin so rare, why collectors are willing to pay outrageous amounts for it, and how the smallest imperfections and overlooked details at the mint can ultimately transform a coin into a record-breaking piece of history. Because the 1984 penny is not only about copper-plated zinc, the Denver Mint, or Abraham Lincoln's enduring portrait, but about the confluence of human error, mechanical malfunction, and historical context that together birth a financial and cultural marvel worth many millions. To begin, it is essential to understand the background of the 1984 1-cent coin, struck at the Denver Mint, which had long been producing coins with a reputation for efficiency. But like all large-scale operations, mistakes can and did happen, and 1984 was no exception, as multiple die varieties, misstrikes, and minting issues slipped past quality control and found their way into circulation, giving rise to anomalies that today are seen as prized treasures, such as doubled dies, off-center strikes, cuds, planchet errors, and even wrong metal planchet strikes, each of which plays a role in shaping the mythology of this coin. One of the most talked about errors linked to the 1984 penny is the doubled die variety, where specific parts of the design, particularly the lettering or Lincoln's profile, exhibit doubling that is visible to the naked eye or under magnification, and for coin collectors, doubled die coins are among the most desirable types of mint error because they create a sense of uniqueness, each coin essentially having its own fingerprint of mistake, and in 1984 certain examples of the Denver minted pennies displayed doubling in areas such as Lincoln's ear, eyes, and date, making them instantly identifiable to specialists, and as demand for these varieties grew, so too did the mythos of their value, climbing from mere hundreds to thousands and eventually, through a mixture of rarity, hype, and investor speculation, reaching astronomical rumored valuations that culminated in the legendary $28 million figure for the most unique and dramatic specimens. But doubling was not the only issue, because the Denver Mint's striking presses also produced coins with dramatic off-center strikes, where Lincoln's bust and the lettering would appear shifted or partially missing, and these off-center coins, depending on the percentage of the strike missing, can be highly sought after, particularly when the date is still visible, which allows identification of the year and mint mark. And in the case of 1984 pennies, off-center examples with clear dates are extremely rare and command jaw-dropping prices at auctions, adding to the aura of fortune surrounding this otherwise unassuming cent. Furthermore, there were instances of coins struck on defective planchets, with clipped planchets leaving a crescent-shaped chunk missing, lamination errors creating peeling layers, and in extremely rare situations, wrong planchet strikes, where a 1-cent coin was mistakenly struck on a foreign coin blank or a different denomination's metal stock, making such an error a once-in-a-lifetime find for collectors. And when such pieces surface with the Denver mint mark and the date 1984, they are instantly elevated into the realm of near-mythical treasures, sparking bidding wars among collectors who see not just a coin, but a historical accident preserved forever in metal. Adding to the fascination is the transitionary period of U.S. cents in the early 1980s, as the mint had switched from the traditional 95% copper composition to copper-plated zinc in 1982 due to rising copper prices, and by 1984, virtually all cents were meant to be zinc cores coated in copper, but mistakes did occur. And there are rumors and occasional discoveries of 1984 D cents struck on leftover copper planchets, which weigh more than their zinc counterparts, making them highly distinguishable by weight alone. And because copper cents from this era are so scarce, especially with the Denver mint mark and date 1984, such discoveries are considered numismatic miracles, with values that easily leap into the hundreds of thousands or even millions, feeding into the idea that somewhere, perhaps locked away in a private vault or passed down in a forgotten collection, exists the fabled $28 million specimen. Beyond the physical minting errors, the 1984 D penny also captures the imagination because of its cultural context, coming at a time when coin collecting was experiencing renewed popularity, with magazines, shows, and auctions drawing large crowds, and when an era coin surfaced, it could generate headlines and excitement far beyond the numismatic community, turning coins into pop culture artifacts as much as financial investments. And the legend of the 1984 D penny grew through repeated storytelling, news articles, collector hype, and the tendency of human beings to magnify the value of rarity into something almost mythical, until the rumor of a $28 million penny became part of the lore. But while skeptics dismiss such valuations as exaggerations, the truth remains that certain 1984 D pennies with the right combination of errors, condition, and provenance can indeed sell for life-changing sums, making it one of the most talked about coins of its era. And for collectors, the hunt for these treasures is not merely about money, but about the thrill of discovery. The idea that one could stumble upon a 1984 D penny in a jar, drawer, or change and hold in their hand a fortune, disguised as a common coin. To fully appreciate this phenomenon, one must delve into the mechanics of minting and how errors occur. For example, when a die is improperly engraved or polished, it may create doubling. When a planchet is improperly prepared, it may split or peel. When a coin is misfed into the press, it may strike off center, and when a die breaks, it leaves behind cuts and cracks. Each of these technical mishaps combining chance and human oversight into what collectors later identify as beauty and rarity. And in the 1984 Denver Mint, which struck billions of pennies, the sheer scale of production made the occasional error statistically inevitable. Yet it is precisely these outliers that transform mundane coins into multi-million-dollar rarities. Furthermore, condition plays a critical role, because a coin with even the most dramatic error may lose much of its value if worn, scratched, or corroded, but a pristine example with sharp details and minimal wear can command extraordinary premiums, and grading agencies such as PCGS and NGC have certified certain 1984 D pennies at the highest levels, with auction records showing 5-figure and 6-figure sales, paving the way for the legend of the one specimen so rare, so flawless, and so unique in its combination of doubling, off-center strike, and possibly wrong planchet composition, that its value is whispered at $28 million, a sum that reflects not just monetary worth but symbolic significance as the crown jewel of American-era coins. The fascination is further fueled by the fact that coins are tangible pieces of history, carried by ordinary people, exchanged in markets, passed down through generations, and the idea that within such humble currency lies hidden wealth resonates deeply with human psychology, much like the allure of buried treasure or lottery jackpots, and the 1984 D penny embodies this narrative perfectly, reminding us that great fortunes may lie unnoticed in the most ordinary of places. Imagine for a moment stumbling upon a coin jar in your attic, or receiving a handful of change at the grocery store and spying the date 1984 with the small d beneath it, and upon closer inspection realizing that Lincoln's year shows clear doubling, the strike is slightly off-center, the weight is anomalously high, and the coin has an uncirculated luster. You may not only be holding history, but perhaps millions of dollars, and it is these possibilities that keep collectors endlessly intrigued, driving up demand and perpetuating the legend. The 1984 D penny thus stands as both a cautionary tale and an inspiration, reminding us of the fragile line between error and perfection, and how the unintended flaws of mass production can yield unintended masterpieces. And while not every 1984 penny will make you a millionaire, the potential that one could fuels the imagination and adds vibrancy to the world of numismatics, ensuring that the story of the 1984 1-cent coin worth $28 million will continue to capture hearts and minds for generations to come. And as we wrap up this journey through history, error, and fortune, remember to stay curious, keep searching your change, and never underestimate the power of small details to hold big secrets. And if you enjoyed this exploration into the mysteries of the 1984 penny and the world of rare coins, don't forget to join us again for more stories of hidden treasures, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another incredible tale of how the smallest things can hold the greatest value.